It borders on the flabbergasting, the news this afternoon. As of Friday, the 5th of September, the centre of gravity in Whitehall has shifted after Angela Rayner's resignation over underpaid stamp duty. Keir Starmer has executed one of the most extraordinary and rapid reshuffles, I think, in 50-odd years of British politics. David Lammy moves to be Deputy Prime Minister and Lord Chancellor. Yvette Cooper becomes the Foreign Secretary, and Shabana Mahmood takes over as Home Secretary. Several other briefs move in concert. This is not a tinkering, it is a rewiring of authority and tempo across Number 10, the FCDO and the Home Office. Rayner's departure was swift once Sir Laurie Magnus concluded she'd breached the ministerial code by failing to seek expert tax advice. Whether she preempted his final decision or whether she heard it and then walked, I don't know. But Starmer equally has chosen speed over drift, pulling forward a reshuffle that had been penciled in, I suppose, for later in the autumn. The priority was to prevent a vacuum at the heart of government in the very hour the story-dominated news cycles. And the political calculus is simple: fill the space, control the frame, and show grip. And he definitely does. Moving a sitting Foreign Secretary to Justice looks like a demotion on paper, which is why Number 10 pairs it with Deputy Prime Minister, and the effect is twofold. First, it places a senior political communicator in charge of a justice system under acute pressure on prisons, court backlogs, and free speech controversies. Second, it creates a deputy with real cabinet heft who can take heat at the dispatch box when the Prime Minister keeps his bandwidth for the economic programmes. The Guardian, the Financial Times and others confirm the configuration. Expect Lammy to frame the Ministry of Justice as a public confidence department, safer streets, faster courts, and a recalibration of speech and public order law that addresses all the concerns raised in recent high-profile cases without turning the Home Office into the sole venue for those debates. If critics call this a sideways step for a figure some found underwhelming at the Foreign Office, the counter is obvious. Few politicians relish trench warfare more than a criminal justice brief demands. And Yvette Cooper's move to the Foreign Office will be caricatured by some as a domestic policy transfer into a foreign arena, and that misses the core asset. She is one of the most seasoned administrators in the cabinet, with Treasury, DWP, and long experience scrutinising security policy from opposition. Her recent bilateral work with Paris and Berlin on illegal migration gives her immediate dossiers with European partners and a path to reset both the tone and the outcomes of the UK-EU problem solving. The brief requires a cool manager who can align foreign policy with the government's domestic priorities, not a showman. Strategically, the Cooper appointment signals three things. First, a premium on predictability for allies in Washington, Brussels and the G7. Second, continuity on Ukraine and the Indo-Pacific, while pushing for visible wins on returns agreements and legal pathways that take pressure off the channel. And third, an end to any personality-driven headlines around the post. Reuters write-up sets this in the frame of stability after a political shock, and it's rather a brilliant move, I would suggest, by the Prime Minister. You see him sort of arranging his pieces on the chessboard, and this is a move towards check. And Shabana Mahmood's move to the Home Office puts a disciplined operator into the most unforgiving portfolio in British politics. Success will be measured in numbers, not rhetoric. Small boat arrivals, asylum decisions made per month, hotel closures, and enforcement against criminal gangs. If she can accelerate processing, expand safe returns, and normalise accommodation policy away from emergency hotels, the reward is disproportionate. If not, the opposition will define the government by this single metric. Multiple outlets capture both the opportunity and the political risk embedded in her brief. Parallel changes round out the picture. Steve Reed to housing Peter Kyle to business and trade, Pat McFadden to work and pensions, interesting, Liz Kendall to science and technology, Emma Reynolds to environment, and new leadership in the Lords and the Whip's office. The choreography concentrates loyal managers in duty, delivery-heavy departments and removes lightning rods where necessary. This is a government placing function over flourish. And the risks and the opportunities here. Critics will say that Lammy's move concedes he lacked impact abroad and that Cooper is a stopgap. The answer lies in outcomes by Christmas, visible progress on returns agreements and a steadier courtroom pipeline. If those needles move, the personnel logic writes itself. And we have to see whether or not an international conference is called to regularise the 1951 Refugee Convention, because that is very much needed, and I think this new change makes that more likely. The Home Office can devour ministers, and Mahmood will need immediate operational levers on caseworking and removals, plus cross-government cooperation with the DLUHC to unwind hotel dependency. Success requires boring competence at scale. And Cooper must reassure European partners on continuity while maintaining traction in Washington. And the Foreign Office will also need to steady messaging on the Middle East and sanctions policies, so there's no daylight between Number 10 and King Charles Street. Early readouts with key allies will be telling. So what to watch out for in the next 90 days? A foreign policy reset speech, probably, from Cooper that ties great power priorities to domestic resilience and migration control. Watch out for early trips to Paris and Berlin. From Lammy, I think one ought to see justice systems, targets, the court processing, prison capacity, probably, and some form of prison reform. He strikes me as the sort of person who could pick up a lot of Rory Stewart's concerns, plus a statement on balancing public order policing with free expression. The Home Office monthly stats with an explicit scoreboard. That's something that I think one should expect. Decisions per caseworker, returns executed, hotels exited. Mahmood's credibility will rise or fall with those charts and with this new body that will expedite the appeals process. With this sort of cabinet discipline, there's fewer solo runs, more collective lines. The personnel moves imply a premium on message discipline during a volatile political autumn. Starmer's objective today is containment and reassertion, containment of a damaging story by moving quickly to fill a constitutional office, reassertion of control by putting known managers into pressure points and denying opponents an easy story about drift. The Independent and The Guardian live feeds underline Number 10's intention to project calm inevitability rather than crisis management. And this is a professional reset. It's better than anything that I would have expected from Keir Starmer, and it's certainly better than anything we saw in the days of Rishi Sunak or Theresa May or Boris. It's a really clever piece of manoeuvring. Lammy becomes the government's political shock absorber and legal reformer. Cooper takes the foreign brief, which he is well equipped to do and deliver quiet wins where headlines have been a distraction. Mahmood inherits the hardest portfolio with a mandate to produce numbers that bite. And if the next quarter brings measurable movement on courts, crossings and coordination with allies, today's choices will look not only defensible but astute. If not, expect the charge of rearranging the furniture.